Our next panel is entitled Permissionless Participation in Global Decentralized Finance. DeFi is effectively allowing permissionless participation in global finance, and let's find out how with Tegan Kine from The Graph, along with her panelists.
Thank you so much, Adam. It's wonderful to welcome our incredible panelists today. We have Nodar, the co-founder of Zapperfi, Gabriel, the co-founder of RSK, Mick, the lead developer of PieDAO, and Fenwig, the co-founder of Perpetual Protocol. The first question I want to ask is very simple to kind of set the stage at a high level. How would you define DeFi if you had to define it in one word? Let's start with Mick.
Yeah, for me, it was a tough question, like one word, because it's a fairly complex thing. But I would say liberating, even for the users, because they are allowed to access these financial products from anywhere in the world without any boundaries. But also for us as developers, because we can basically crack open this old, inefficient financial world and build new applications on top, which were not possible only 5 years ago. And that's pretty liberating to me.
Great. Gabriel?
Yeah, in my case, so I like the open finance expression more than DeFi, in the sense that it's open from its source code. So all this amazing technology and knowledge that we are creating as a swarm, it's available for everyone. And also the access, no, it's open access. And I know we're going to talk about it more, but this idea that anyone in this planet has the right to participate and no one can let anyone out. I think this is amazing.
Great. Fenway?
Yeah, I would say composable. I think that, before we have this, different kinds of web APIs like REST. And before that, we have like OpenDoc, we have lots of DCOM, lots of component system, but nothing like what we have right now. People can just go, it's permissionless. You can just grab any parts of the system and then you can just use that part. You can, it's really powerful, I think, from the developer point of view.
Absolutely. And Nodar, how would you define DeFi in one word?
Yeah, one word for me would definitely be Legos. It's playing around with different instruments and really the programmable nature of the financial instruments and really coming up with brand new use cases and a lot of times.
Great. The next question, Nodar, we can ask you first and then go to Mick. So how would you say DeFi is kind of revolutionary in nature? And then what do you see it, DeFi accomplishing in 5 years' time?
Right. Yeah. Well, for me, DeFi really, compared to say something like fintech, right? Whereas the internet really tremendously improved communications and trade execution speeds, it was really unable to transform finance at its most crucial pinpoint, which is creation of new financial instruments. So just like we said with Legos, I think Ethereum enabled anyone to programmatically control digital values through smart contracts. And now you're able to really create something that hasn't been done before, right? Like this open nature of DeFi really allows everyone to have a universal look of everything that's going on, as opposed to black boxes that you see throughout traditional finance, right? So yeah, these conditions could replicate everything from what we are currently seeing in traditional finance, and we're just at the current stage, still augmenting what's currently in the traditional finance and making it better in DeFi. But I think the next stage, within the next 5 years, we're going to see these more and more brand new use cases that weren't even possible in traditional finance before. So that's what I'm really mostly excited about myself too.
Absolutely. Mick?
Yeah, as I was saying before, how we as a bunch of developers, not coming from a financial background or not coming from exorbitant wealth, can create these new products, which, like Nodar is saying, right now mimic traditional financial instruments, but still we can participate in the system, which as a user, it's amazing, but I'm also a developer, right? So for me, that's the most revolutionary part, because anyone can use these finance apps which are already there, but DeFi is somewhat better, still not mature. But I think that everyone can participate. The boundaries are so low, you can just like you participate in a hackathon, and then like Nodar did build a product out of that, and actually like see Zapper now, and it's like these chances that it's giving to people. I think that's the most revolutionary. And I think in 5 years' time, it will be more mature, and we will actually say to our parents, like, maybe you should put some money into this DeFi protocol, because at this moment I'm not really like saying they should do that, because it's still quite risky. But I hope in 5 years' time we can actually, with a clear conscience, sell this to normal retail people.
Mm-hmm. Gabriel Fenwick, I would love for you to add anything if you would like to, but maybe go a little bit deeper on what limitations you could foresee preventing us from having DeFi reach this full potential.
Yes. So my personal background, I come from finance, right? So in one sense, I believe that if we replicate applications or solutions improved in the user experience, but we do not transform our society, then we're kind of doing just the same thing we were doing before as a society with different tools. And I also come from Latin America. I'm from Argentina, so I know what it's live in an economy where everything falls apart, or where the financial system is completely broken. And I'm really excited about all the innovation happening and going on DeFi and blockchain technology in general. But I like the revolutionary part to be linked to actually including those who are now excluded from the traditional system. So the most important revolutionary aspect of DeFi to me is what enables us by being decentralized, but not having to respect any old rules, and being able to innovate and help our regulators to follow the technology and not the other way around.
Mhm.
Fenwick, anything to add?
Yeah, actually, I want to add on Mix. I mean, that's actually really cool that like people can work together. But I also think that the trustless, the trustless blockchain actually bring a lot of interesting properties, because like I'm from Taiwan. It's kind of like unknown team, but we build a financial product, we put it on Ethereum, and people can use it. People can verify that, people can make sure that it's executed, not by ourselves, by old Ethereum blockchain. So I think that's really powerful. People can trust, not us, trust the blockchain. So a small company like the unknown team can have a playground or have a stage for their product. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Mick, I guess expanding on this, I would love to understand, as the wealth income inequality gap continues to widen, I'm curious to understand if you think DeFi could play a role in reducing that gap, and if you do, how so?
Yeah, right now there's like this, when you don't have a lot of money, you're not an accredited investor, you don't have the same investment opportunities as the wealthy have. So they get returns which are way higher than people who don't have a lot of money. And there's already the gap, right? Like closing the gap, like you cannot guarantee more returns to people with less wealth, but at least you can somewhat level it, so it's not growing as fast as it is right now, which we may be reaching in 5 years' time, because by then, like we can have the same asset allocation strategies as like the big titans like Ray Dalio have. Like they have their hedge funds, and if you want to put some money in there, you need to have at least a couple of $1 million. But like with DeFi, you could already do it from like $100. So I think it could help not closing the gap, but maybe slowing down the growth a bit.
Yeah, I interviewed Hester Pierce from the SEC and complained about the accreditation issues, that you do have to be wealthy. And it was nice to see that recently they just updated that. So you can take the Series 7 or 63 and I think one other exam, and that allows you to actually become an accredited investor now. So those exams are still expensive, but it's good. It's a step in the right direction, I think. Would anyone else like to add anything to what Mick said?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Yeah, I could add. I was gonna say that, yeah, like even at the current stage in DeFi, if you notice, most of the money that's being staked in DeFi protocols is like still coming from like Silicon Valley, a lot of it from the US. Just now recently, we've seen the kind of Asian market start really entering some of these DeFi protocols. So I think largely DeFi still remains kind of unknown and untapped by the areas where I think it's like truly would be powerful. Like Gabriel said, definitely like Latin America, South Africa, like these areas where, in just like natural inflation of their currency is just like through the roof every year. They're more than happy to enter, even if entering comes at some kind of a cost, right? Like a lot of people are kind of not entering because there's like a couple of percentage of fee they usually have to pay for the onboarding. So I think even through those, people are more than happy to pay a fee just to stop the bleeding that they're currently experiencing on a day-to-day basis with their like local currencies. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree, Tegan, and I would add that the world is changing so rapidly. What we are seeing now in the stock market, now in the US, where only few have the luck to own some of those shares. And my feeling is that the valuations are going up because of inflation. So this inequality gap will get, just worse over time, not only in the emerging markets or Latin America, Africa, but also in the US. So I think it's very important that we as a community keep on improving on the milestones that are missing in order to reach mass adoption. You mentioned before what we need. I think there is a huge need in UX to making this easy for everyone to be able to use. And I have seen some amazing improvements in recent months. But I think the fees are also a big problem now. And we need to work together to make sure that these solutions are not for an elite that can use it and really don't need it, and we can get to every corner of the planet, so we can contribute at least to slow this inequality gap that we see growing over time.
Absolutely. And yeah, Nodar, as I did some due diligence on this panel, they said Zappify has some of the best UX and UI they've seen in the space. So wanted to call that out here. But yeah, and expanding on that, in the blockchain space, we've really had this narrative around helping the unbanked and the underbanked. But like you said, Gabriel, I don't think we've really brought that to fruition yet, and Nodar as well. So I'm really interested to hear how you think DeFi can help bring better services at lower cost to billions of underserved users around the world. Gabriel, let's start with you.
We had a very interesting project in the slums of Buenos Aires called Didi Project. You can look it up. And what we learned when talking to them, it was amazing. So first we told them, you guys need microloans, right? And they say, yeah, that's important, but also we need where to save. When you are extremely poor and you live in a house with no door, you are forced to be poor all your life because there's no way you can save to make a tiny investment and grow over time. So I think this is very important to listen to the needs, to go to the field and actually see what those who need it the most actually need. And what we did with Didi in particular was very focused on ID, because they were already doing micro loans among themselves and their families, but they were not having any way to record that reputation. So basically Project Didi is around self-sovereign identity and how these families making micro loans to themselves can grow that reputation and then use it in the future to get higher amounts from third parties. So I think this is a very interesting case of using blockchain technology and its derivations to use and bank people today in real life.
Great. Would anyone else like to add anything? I resonate with what Nodar mentioned. I think that, decentralization doesn't always mean distribution, and you have to be a pretty savvy DeFi user currently. So how do we reduce that barrier to entry for decentralized financial information to make it more accessible to the masses? Gabriel, let's start with you, and then let's go to Mick.
I think Nodar is the UX expert, so I would pass it on to him. Go ahead, no.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm definitely not a UX expert, really, like building up Zapper, like definitely thankful to, first of all, the team that I work around with, Seb, Sahil, and others are like putting in tremendous amount of, work every day. And it's really our users who are always like kind of speaking to us and like giving us most of this feedback that we're building up from. So that's been, if anything, like the most exciting. And I feel like Ethereum has such a vibrant ecosystem, and I've never seen a better community than this, honestly, just building up for the last like year already. Yeah, it's been incredible. But to add on for the UX, like we also try to really go down kind of like deep in the roots. So for example, like obviously everyone's familiar with the recent farming craze. And I've seen a lot of, centralized exchanges literally just like kind of listing the tokens that others are farming, right? So it's not like they're providing their users ability to actually farm and actually do what how you're supposed to be getting these tokens, right? These governance tokens. They're just kind of like creating this agricultural dumping ground for their users, what I feel like. So it's like I'm definitely happy to provide the experiences that are actually meant to be used as DeFi, right? Like you're staking your pool tokens, you're always are like kind of like actually putting in the actions that these DeFi protocols, underlying DeFi protocols, are meant to be used. So it's like you're using them for their purpose, not for the purpose of just like making money, right? Like I love how most of our users are actually participating in governance when they're actually getting these farmed tokens, quote unquote. So yeah, if anything, that's what I would like add on for the experience, is to always make sure that the experience that you're adding on to the users always comes with this like a core layer of like education. Like we have a tutorial for every single like farming opportunity we provide. So like education always remained at the core of our approach.
Great. Mick Fenwick?
I think we've come a long way already. Like when I see when Ethereum started, like my first transaction I did via the command line. So, and then we had MyEther wallet, which was like a breath of fresh air. And then now I think like we have a bunch of products trying to make it easier for users and abstracting away that complexity. Like most people don't know how the internet works, but still they are using their web browser, right? So we have like a DeFi app, which first started doing complex transactions into one, because these transactions were actually pretty complex. Like you had to buy some tokens there, put them in a Uniswap pool, send them somewhere else or whatever. And then now we have YFI, which is automating farming for you. You just allocate your capital and it starts working. And we ourselves at PyDAO, we want to tokenize like wealth allocation strategy, so you don't need to think about it. You just park your money in there. You have a nice risk diversified portfolio. So I think in the end, we're getting there. Like it's still a process, right? It's not at the end of the innovation, but if you look at what has been achieved in 5 years and what has been achieved in the last year, I think it's going pretty fast. And like non-tech savvy users will be able to use it pretty soon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to add that I think like bots like YEarn, or I mean like protocol like YEarns or like YVolt, I think that help a lot, because I mean kind of like a bot. So you choose the best like strategy for you to earn the yield. So I think that I mean that already popular enough, but I think there will be more projects like this, and then the UI will be much easier.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so DeFi is really creating this new system. You know, finance hasn't really innovated in the sense that the infrastructure hasn't changed since like the 70s. And DeFi is kind of uprooting this old financial system and paving a new pathway. And it's not like, you know, it's not like an N26 or Revolut, how they say they're kind of democratizing money. It's very different. So how do you foresee DeFi's current and future impact on the centralized financial system that we know so well today?
Shall I start? So I definitely believe that the tsunami of innovation that is happening in the space will very, very clearly soon that it's on a different league from the traditional way of doing finance. You know, the same kind of thing that we're seeing in the aerospace with the reusable rockets, or even with mobility. You know, some old legacy auto companies are thinking on how to improve on the batteries, and then it's automation, self-driving discussion. No? They're even with the wrong questions right now, and I think it's something similar happening on DeFi. What I hope, because I'm a bit negative on the outlook of the world, sadly, on what's happening right now, and I see that there's a possibility of the finance world like breaking apart and having the SWIFT for the US and the Chinese financial system, and having different countries and users around the world having to choose between WeChat or Facebook money, and I really hope that decentralized finance, one reaches a true level of decentralization that cannot be stopped, hopefully close to what we see in Bitcoin, can build those bridges and help us as a global society stay together and keep being able to interact among users peer-to-peer, regardless of these massive superpowers going through this very complex period of change that I'm certain we're going to see in the next couple of decades. So I'm very hopeful and thankful that we have Bitcoin and we have Ethereum and RSK and DeFi and all this amazing open source technology that we are building together.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if I was going to add on, just to say that the way DeFi is kind of set up, totally different from the more of the centralized fintech projects, is that decentralized fintech projects, they have just like a internal team that's working on perhaps creating some financial instruments or creating some kind of UX improvement, whereas in DeFi you have like this Cambrian explosion right now of innovation, right? Gabriel said that, and it's really everyone is contributing, feels like, to the same project almost, and there's no way any single corporate team will be able to compete with that long term. So that's kind of it. Yeah.
Great. I would love to turn the tables and kind of start talking a little bit about governance. So Fenwig, I would love to direct this question to you. Governance is important because when you have a decentralized system, if something goes wrong, you need a group there to kind of help with that situation. So how would you say, Fenwig, that decentralized governance is helping to navigate local regulations?
I think that's an interesting way. I don't really know the answers, but I see like Compounds like doing this. I think that's really well. They have this like system, you can vote, you can publish code based on the vote. So I think that's really cool. I'm just curious. So I would say that it definitely helped to navigate the local regulation issues. But I'm also curious that because that's definitely doable for all the teams. So what happens if all the teams doing the same thing? Then everyone has a doubt, and kind of like it's really hard to track the responsibility of the project, right? So I'm just curious at what would happen at that time. But I think definitely Compound show us a way to kind of like navigate this. Yeah.
Great. Would anyone else like to add anything?
I think like true decentralized finance isn't vulnerable to local regulatory capture at all, because it's just like Bitcoin or Ethereum or Chainlink for that matter, that if it's sufficiently decentralized, it cannot really be shut down, right? It's not this is not legal advice or anything, but yeah, I think like proper decentralized governance will make it in a way that it truly cannot be stopped. There's not one person in control. If that team goes somewhere else and doesn't want to work on the product anymore, the capital which is funding development will be used for another team. Like, I think that's how it deals with regulatory capture.
I would add that I think it's very interesting what's happening with decentralized governance, because clearly the regulation is outdated. So regulation always comes after innovation, and the regulators don't have a clue what we are discussing today and what's coming. And these decentralized protocols really need to crash their brains into building something that works and that is as decentralized as possible, and as Ming was saying, just to survive. If you're centralized, then the project is doomed, because regulation is not up to speed on how it should be in order to make it fully legal. And I think we're gonna get through that, and some projects will not be decentralized enough and then be shut down, and some other projects will eventually survive. But I think we are going to make a great favor to society, because we have a major governance problem in our society. If you see what's happening in the US election, if you see what's happening in everywhere. So probably, DeFi will give us an amazing playground to discuss and to prove with value at stake decentralized ways of governing ourselves as a society that then we will extrapolate to other areas. So I think I see that as a positive side benefit from this very difficult process of decentralizing governance.
Absolutely. And so since we are at a Chainlink conference, we can't leave without talking about oracles and smart contracts. So how would you say Chainlink plays a role in your underlying architecture, and how important are oracles to your smart contracts?
I guess I'll start. Yeah, I would say, and we recently worked on an integration with Chainlink, which was pretty incredible. Thanks for all the support there. But yeah, we're currently using them for prices for gas estimates when users are about to make a transaction through Zapper. But in the future, we have other really good use cases, like where it's going to be important for us to be counting volume that users are transacting through Zapper, and especially like recording the price of certain assets at the time of the transaction. So for that to be reliable, it's also be extremely important to the underlying protocol that we're building. So yeah, definitely look forward for furthering our integration within Chainlink, definitely.
Great. Gabriel?
Yeah, so I mean, we have a big announcement today. There was a panel going on at the same time. We integrated with Chainlink on RSK. The code was made public hours ago. So, we are pushing very hard to build this concept of DeFi for Bitcoin, or for Bitcoiners, on top of Bitcoin infrastructure. Given that RSK is completely compatible with Ethereum, any project building a DeFi platform can run their solution on RSK and be secured by Bitcoin hashing power. So we see this DeFi revolution just unifying all different infrastructures, with projects getting such a relevance and becoming so important that which infrastructure you're going to be using depends on the security level and the cost of the infrastructure. Maybe for some use cases you use one, and for others a different one. But we're very excited about now having Chainlink available on RSK for all the smart contracts being built on Bitcoin.
Great. Nick?
Oh yeah, for us right now in our project, we're not using Chainlink at the moment. Like, we're launching a DeFi index soon, which contains the Chainlink token, but I wouldn't say that's actual usage of the platform, of course. But in the future, like right now, our indexes are balanced by community vote. But in the end, if we want to scale the organization, we need to automate some of these processes, and for which we need good price information, for which the Chainlink is definitely a good solution. And we're also working on a new, yet to be announced product, which will rely on real world data. And I think Chainlink is by far the best solution for that at this moment.
Great. Penguin?
Yep. Yeah, so for us, we are building a decentralized perpetual swap oracle. So we definitely need an oracle to get the underlying price. So we use Chainlink. We have been using Chainlink for a while. I think it's worked very well. I think, we will just try to get more like new financial instrument price feed from Chainlink in the future. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, and with the Graph and the Chainlink partnership, now all Oracle data can be queried and indexed by the Graph. So no longer just on-chain data, actual real-world data can be indexed thanks to Chainlink. Great. And now let's just go around. If you guys want to share your Twitter handles, how folks can get in touch with you after the panel.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter, NodarJ, NodarJ. Pretty simple. And we have a pretty good community on our Discord. If you guys want to join in and ask questions, we're always available through there.
And I'm Mick DEG010. I will post it in the chat because it's a bit hard to remember. And you can also visit our website at PyDAO.org or join our Discord. Like we have a bunch of people in there from a bunch of projects. It's always fun to chat. And yeah, that's how you can reach me.
In my case, he's Gabriel Kurman. My Twitter handle, RSK Smart, is the Twitter for RSK, and you can visit all the information at developers.rsk.co and riffos.org for the Riff services.
Yeah. For me, it's Tempofeng, TEMPOFENG. So, or you can follow Perpetual Protocol, per protocol actually, per PRP protocol. Yeah. So that will be, our announcement.
Thank you for such an insightful conversation.
Thank you very much.